Hey guys, welcome to my first review of 2026. This is a film that I've been looking forward to for a while. It was a film that didn't get a wide release until 2026, so it's technically a 2026 release. Some people were lucky enough in 2025 to see it at a film festival. I've heard about it because this director has also made other films in the past. That is director Gore Verbinski. He's done the first three Pirates of the Caribbean films. He's directed Rango. He's directed The Weatherman. He's directed quite a bit of stuff. I know Pirates of the Caribbean is kind of one of his bigger films that he's worked on. But he took a long absence. I think A Cure for Wellness was his last film he worked on, which was, I think, in the 2010s when that came out. And like I said, that was Gore Verbinski. So he has a new film out called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. This film did really, really well at some film festivals, so I've been looking forward to it ever since the word of mouth has been really good for it. And I'm very happy to report really straight out of the gate that this is a very, very good film. So I want to go over some positives and negatives as to why I really like it so much, as well as a plot synopsis. So first and foremost, guys, if you don't know anything about this film, Sam Rockwell plays basically a time traveler from the future, and he goes to basically our present day to warn everybody about an AI threat that's about to happen. He starts recruiting random people at this diner. People are kind of freaking out because they're worried that it's this homeless man that had this psychological breakdown, but it really is this guy from the future trying to save everybody. And so, as the film progresses, we also find out that this isn't the first time he's time traveled to our present. He's actually done quite a few test runs to kind of see how things play out, see how difficult it is to kind of get around to certain places, and see how difficult it is to get to this AI threat that he's warning everybody about. And as the film progresses, we also learn about these characters that do indeed enjoy his little quote unquote army to stop the AI threat. We learn a little bit about them, why they kind of believe this guy, how he's not just this random guy that barged into this diner and kind of warned everybody about this thing that nobody was aware of. Um, and as the film progresses, we learn more and more just how bad this AI threat got into the future, and how it was important to this character played by Sam Rockwell that he does test run multiple different times to basically make sure that he does get the best possible scenario played out to stop this AI threat by the time he does go back to that future. And as the film progresses too, it also is very much about how AI can, really mess everything up. How everything is as simple as a natural, piece of paper with that we write on, or a piece of art that we make, or something that a human being made, or even something as simple as access to food would become more and more scarce, just because AI is all about artificially making something for you rather than naturally giving something to you that you hold in your hand, that you go out and touch, see with your eyes physically, see it out in the real world. It's all about making stuff that's all artificial. And so the film does very much play into that idea of it's a very dangerous world we could live in if everything did become artificial, everything natural were to disappear, everything physical were to disappear. And so the film very magnificently plays out what a scenario like that could possibly be like if we did run into this really bad threat. And so over the course of this film, Sam Rockwell and his little army, once again, quote unquote, do everything in their power to stop this AI threat from happening. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed this film a lot. It's a very fun film. Though I think the very first Pirates of the Caribbean is still my favorite Gore Verbinski film, this is definitely easily in my top three, if not my top two, of some of his best work that he's ever made. And that's saying a lot, because I also really liked Rango back when he worked on that. So for my positives and negatives of this film, first and foremost, this is a great cautionary tale about AI. It really does have a lot to say about addiction and how dangerous it could be if AI really were to take over everything, take over every job, take over every resource, take over every company, just making and also giving you that delusion that it's giving you everything that you want and everything that you need right then and there. And so I like how the film really does make AI really look like a really awful thing if we really let it become everything. And so I think the film does very much succeed as a cautionary tale. The film also does kind of feel like a very expensive Twilight Zone episode, in the sense that it's warning you about something, it's telling you about something that you're aware of in your day to day life, but if you let it take over everything, it could ruin the very life that you know. And so I do like how the film really does make that strong point of how dangerous it could be if AI were to take over everything. And another thing I really liked about this film, specifically, I would say about the halfway mark, I really realized this. I loved how original this film felt. It really, besides borrowing maybe a couple of things, maybe from The Terminator and I don't know, maybe a couple of other science fiction stories that also have, stories about time travel and AI and all that other stuff. This film does feel very original. It does feel very um, like it's not copying anything else. It really does feel like it's its own thing. That it's not, it's not just another adaptation of a comic book or a TV show or anything like that. I really like how original this film felt in the sense that there really is kind of no other film that's like this. And I really like how even films that do cover AI and some other related things like that, this film very much carves its own path as far as what it looks like, what it feels like, what kind of experience it's giving you as a story. So I thought all that was very impressive in this film. I also liked how great and detailed the characters were in this film. We really learn quite a bit about this army that Sam Rockwell formed, specifically a mom that runs into some trouble with an AI child. We also learn about a girl that dresses up as a princess and kind of the backstory behind that, what her job was before all this went down at the diner. And we really, there's a lot of bigger details going on with this Lu Richardson character, once again, who's like this princess girl, quote unquote. Um, Definitely very detailed. I liked how well rounded these characters felt. I definitely cared about them. It's one of those things where the more you learn about them, the more backstory you learn about some of these characters and how AI has kind of hurt their own day to day lives as well. It really makes you root for the characters even more just because you've seen just how awful their lives have become because of how bad the AI situation has become in our day to day society. And the film really makes you care about them quite a bit. And I also like how the film really does comment about today's youth, how physical media, how physical items in particular are just starting to disappear like crazy because of AI and because of technology. And it really does warn us about how bad today's youth attention spans are really bad. How it's we used to live in a world where when you went to school, your eyes would be on the teacher the whole time. Now their eyes are on their phones the whole time. And so when the teacher is trying to teach them something physically in a classroom, that's becoming even more difficult because of AI, because of technology, because people just don't want to put down their phones anymore. And so I really do like how the film really strongly makes that point that people's attention spans are just completely gone now. And so I really like how the film really strongly brings that point home. I also like how the film really does bring up the idea that AI really thinks it knows what you want, when you want it, when you need it. Um, I had to put something down there. Sorry about that. And so I do like how the film really does make the point that AI thinks it always knows what you want and what you need and what your essentials are, what you need to live. And so I like the idea that AI always thinks it knows what it's doing. It thinks it's always doing the right thing, but sometimes it's not always doing that for you. I also really liked how unique the time travel story was in this movie because this is not the first time the Sam Rockwell character went back in the past to do something, which basically would be our present day. The film really does play around with the idea of kind of like what Edge of Tomorrow did. And once again, this film does feel original. It's not another Edge of Tomorrow, but similar to Edge of Tomorrow, I like how because this character has done the time travel thing so many times now, there's some things he's able to pick up on that are kind of a waste of his time if he explores it anymore. So I like the idea that because he's time traveled so much, there's things that he can ignore, people that he can ignore, situations, housing stuff, where to go, where to hide, when authorities show up and stuff like that. So I do like how unique the time travel element was, where because this guy has done it so many times, he's able to kind of um, quickly bypass certain things in order to kind of reach his end goal very quickly. And that also helps the other characters that we follow along on this journey, specifically his army, get to his end point as soon as he possibly can. And for the most part, too, this film works great as a dark comedy. There really is some pretty funny moments if you kind of accept the whole dark humor nature of it. The film really does poke fun at just how ridiculous AI and technology are right now, how it really does kind of take over everything. And so I think the film has a sharp comedic point of just how much that situation is in our day to day life right now. But for my negatives of this film, unfortunately, the third act has some very weak creative decisions. There's just a lot of times in the third act where it treats AI like a physical thing, and that's certainly not at all what it is. It also is a film, unfortunately, that has multiple different endings play out at once. So rather than picking one really good ending to really strongly end its point on, it tries to do the all three or four different endings at the same time, and as a result, it feels like the ending is super dragged out because it really can't decide on what kind of an ending at once. So I thought that aspect of the story was also very disappointing. And for the most part, and I know this is kind of subjective, but this is a very weird film. It's just one of those films where you just kind of have to embrace how weird it is, and that's saying a lot because I've seen a lot of films that go in very weird directions, and this is a film in particular where it's almost a little too weird for its own good, and yeah, it's a very strange film. So definitely buckle up for how weird it is because they go in some very strange directions in this film. I also thought the overall setup of the story felt a little bit messy. It just felt a little hard to believe that even the army that he was able to assemble felt possible for the Sam Rockwell character. I think a lot of people would just dismiss this guy having a psychological breakdown if he really tried to do this at this diner the way the opening of the film suggests. It just felt like, even though I understand the film makes the point that he's done this multiple times as a time traveler, um, it just feels a little messy. It does feel a little hard to believe that any single person within that diner, no matter what walk of life is in there, would go for it with this guy to kind of stop this AI threat. Yeah, we learn a little bit about their past and how AI is ruining their life and stuff like that for this army he's assembling, but it is a little hard to believe as far as the setup is concerned. Also, not all the army members get a backstory, and that's unfortunate because for the ones that do get a backstory, whether it's Zazie Beetz or Michael Pena or the mom dealing with the AI child or the Haley Lu Richardson girl that dresses up as the princess, because their stories are so good and so convincing, and we learn just how tragic their lives are going because of something AI related going on with it. Unfortunately, not every member that gets recruited has a backstory, and some of them make sense just because they exit the story so quickly. But some of them that do stick around for a while, I really would have liked to learn more about them. And unfortunately, the film never really pauses to give those certain characters their due to. So I thought more backstories with some of these characters, I thought, would have made the film even more interesting and more respected as a result too. And even though I do like the side stories, some of them really go on for way too long. Um, Even though the Haley Lou Richardson character is very important, and you'll very much learn that by the end of the movie, her story in particular goes on for a really, really long time. You can almost make an entire film about her character. That's almost how long her backstory goes. So I thought, even though I really like the side stories, and maybe that was the problem too. Maybe because some of those side stories go on for too long. That's why not everybody in that army got a backstory. They are a little too long. So I thought certain at some point in the editing process they probably could have trimmed those down. And then for my last negative, there is some inconsistencies in the story. There's one character that always has like a bleeding nose when she's around technology for too long, and there's certain scenes where she's very much around something that's high tech and her nose isn't bleeding. And so there's some times in the story where it feels like she's having this disadvantage just because the story requires it. And so there's small things like that that really don't add up over the course of the story. But overall, guys, good luck, have fun, don't die. Gets a 9 out of 10 for me. Absolutely love this film. Go out and see it. Definitely, if you love dark comedies or science fiction or stories that comment on AI in an effective way, this film absolutely does the trick. Absolutely love this film. It's a 9 out of 10. Be sure to see. Good luck, have fun, don't die.